proper. Item 8, we have like to welcome Steve Mutton from Waka Kotahi. Steve has the position of Director of Regional Relationships, and I'm sure most councillors around the table come across Steve in the course of their travels, and certainly I've been seeing a bit of him recently in relation to the Northern Corridor Improvements Project, which is a wonderful project that has just come to completion after being in construction since 2018. So I'll leave Steve to introduce Randia, and we look forward to the presentation from Waka Kotahi today. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you very much, Chair, and once again, thank you for the committee for hosting us this morning. It's always good to come and talk to you all. I'll just introduce to you Randia Kama, who's our Regional Manager of System Design here, and Tameki Makaura and Titai Tokoro. If you remember last time we were here, we talked about the government policy statement and we talked about funding, and we had Nicole Rosie join us, our Chief Executive. What we thought we'd do today is go to the other end of the value chain and talk a little bit about a project that's just been completed to talk to you about some of those benefits that we're recognising from that. So I think one of the key things with the Northern Corridor Improvements Project, which the Chair mentioned was formally opened last Friday, is that it's delivering much more than just transport benefits, but it's actually delivering, you know, real true community and environmental benefits, and I'll touch on some of those today. The government policy statement, which is known as a GPS, now you'll all be interested towards the end of May, there should be a draft of GPS come out for consultation. But it talks about the purpose of the transport system is about improving the well-being of people and also the livability of places. And I think when you look at this particular project, it really aligns to those 5 objectives, which includes inclusive access, it's about health and safety people, it's about environmental sustainability, it's about resilience and security and economic prosperity. So this is one of the projects that Waka Kotahi have successfully delivered with our partners. You know, it really does meet those 5 outcomes. So this project, NCI, is known as Northern Corridor Improvements, actually kicked off about 6 years ago, and it was to complete the Western Ring Route, which was a 48-kilometre alternative route through Auckland, which went via State Highway 18, State Highway 16 and State Highway 20. Now, the Western Ring Route was upgraded across 2 decades, and for those of you who've been around a little while, it started off with the interchange down at Minako, with that State Highway 21 interchange. We saw State Highway 20 develop. We saw the State Highway 16 causeway get widened and came up higher for climate change reasons. We saw Waterview Tunnel do that critical connection between 20 and 16. We saw Te Atatu and Lincoln Road interchanges get upgraded. State Highway 18 was put in place, and now this is the final piece where we've now got that State Highway 18, State Highway 1 connection. With the project now complete, we have that absolutely alternate route through Auckland from a resilience and security perspective, where the movement of people and goods are in addition to that State Highway 1 and also across the Auckland Harbour Bridge. It also provides additional network capacity, which is absolutely critical for us as Auckland continues to grow. And people have more choices now about how they travel and how they connect to work, to school, and to their homes. They can do that by state highway, by driving, by public transport, by walking, cycling, and using their scooters. So as mentioned, this project took 6 years to complete. There was a pandemic right in the middle of it, which the team did an amazing job to work through. And over the 6 years, the Northern Corridor Improvement Project has delivered completion of the Western Ring Route via that direct connection between 1 and 18, which I talked about. Approximately a 5-kilometre extension of the Northern Busway to Albany, including the Constellation Station upgrade to support the northbound trips. Approximately 10 kilometres of shared paths with local connections along State Highway 1 and State Highway 18. Additional lanes on State Highway 1 between Otia Valley Road and Constellation Drive. Upgrade of State Highway 18 westbound on-ramp and safety improvements along State Highway 18. 3 new community sports facilities, which was the North Harbour BMX, North Harbour Hockey, and the Wainoni Park Pony Club. There's upgrade of 3 community spaces, the Rook Reserve, Arranway Reserve and Meadowwood Reserve. and also those people who travel it, the incredible urban design narrative which reflects the absolute cultural richness of that area, and also a range of environmental benefits, including planting of hundreds of thousands native plants and upgrades to a lot of the stormwater systems around that to protect the local walkways. So that team has been incredibly busy over the last 6 years. I think some of the additional community and environmental benefits this project has delivered has certainly been enhanced thanks to our partnership with Ngā Mana Whenua o Tamaki. They've been a partnership with us right from the beginning of this project, and they're so important to us in terms of helping us to achieve these great outcomes. And that whole urban design development has enabled that story of the region through design to be told. And it's really important cultural landscape, but also reflects, I think, creates a welcoming, stunning community space for locals and visitors to enjoy. The construction of NCI was delivered through a hybrid alliance model set up with our partners, and it was one of our first of our kind, the hybrid alliance, and it's worked really well right from initial conception and really kept the principles of customers at the heart of decision making throughout, and I think that has resulted in a really good outcome. I think a couple of key things here was around that the 2 direct state highway links and local road upgrades in the immediate area also enabled the team to work really closely with other infrastructure providers such as Vector and Watercare, and we've included upgrades in their infrastructure as well as part of this project. So we're able to do this work a lot more efficiently and effectively working with these key partners. And I think that it's also incredible project, not only for the transport outcomes, but in which the way we've worked with the other infrastructure organisations to ensure that we achieve those great outcomes for Auckland. So as mentioned, keeping our customers at the heart of the project has ensured that we achieve those outcomes. The customer-led construction methodology reduced the impacts, which I'll talk about a little bit more shortly. And also there was a thing within the team said don't muck with the bus, which absolutely assured that everything they did not impact the public transport schedules, and that the bus had priority over all their work and their work methodology. Another benefit was minimising lane shifts and actually keeping speeds at a higher level during construction. And we're actually using that type of methodology in a lot of our other projects on our live motorway networks at the moment, especially down the southern corridor. The Tirahanga Wainui Bridge also provides walking and cycling transport connections for communities both sides of the state highway, and we use that along with the infrastructure that Watercare were delivering for their critical water infrastructure on the North Shore's growing population. We also amended some of our designs to go from a flyover to an underpass to reduce impact on the neighbouring properties. And these benefits have a real positive impact for those who live and travel through the area, in addition to the wider general public who are using this network. The NCI team has worked over 4.5 million people hours. We inducted over 5,000 people into that project, and there's some really big numbers of 13 new bridges, 33,000 cubic metres of concrete, 200,000 metres of squared pavement, all achieving a no lost time injury, which is absolutely fantastic that we kept our people safe while delivering this significant infrastructure. And the lessons from this project, as I said, are being built into all our projects around New Zealand. So just on the last slide here, because we're quite keen to open it up for questions, is that as we celebrate the completion of this particular project, there's still a lot of investment happening on the North Shore, which is over the next few months we will see the new Puihoi to Walk With project open, so that people and goods travelling between Northland and Auckland can have that, enjoy a safer, more resilient and a more certainty around their journey times. Also, Omaha Penlink will be in full swing in this construction season at the end of the year, and the team's really setting up quickly to be able to expedite that work as quickly as we can. So certainly a lot of projects in the North Shore and north of Auckland, which is really exciting. And of course, as you will all know, we're planning for the Waitemata Harbour Connections project, encouraging you all to have your say, which I'm sure you will, but also that really feeds into the to the connections for the North Shore. So through you, Chair, happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much for the presentation, Steve. We have some questions lined up. Councillor Walker, Darby and Hills.
Just a really quick commendation. Great project, delivered, timing wonderful, and the disruption negligible, so really well done. So quick question, the Rosedale station, when is it going to be delivered and can you deliver it?
Thanks, Councillor, through your chair. The Rosedale station right now, we're working with Auckland Transport on looking at the most effective and efficient way to actually contract the works. It was originally planned to be delivered by the Alliance, but there's some work to be done now to actually look at a more efficient way to deliver the project. I don't actually have a timeline yet for it, but I understand there's some work that's happening to actually try and get the works out to tender. That's the next piece of the puzzle for this particular project to get underway.
Okay, thank you, Randir. Councillor Darby.
Chair, Randir, Steve, thanks very much. Thanks for the account of the Northern Corridor project. And of course, that has a long history. It originally did not include a busway. So I'm just reflecting, and this is just being candid with you, your agency did not propose a busway originally. I wrote to the minister of the time and the new member up there, the national minister and the national member up there, and got very brief replies. It was actually one of your board members who actually proposed the busway go in because it would lower the cost of building the motorway using the busway as a staging area. I'm just accounting that, and then when it came to us later on, we were pushing this committee, the former planning committee was pushing for no big superstructure, and we were told, and I was part of that conversation pushing for it, and we were told not possible, there's a big telecoms cable. The Alliance, once they got on board, suddenly the telecoms cable disappeared as a problem. I guess I'm just giving a brief background here because I give credit to the agency, but I also give credit to the agency being open to the inputs of others eventually. Because it's the others who have created a great project here on the back of your work as well. I don't dismiss your work. Which draws me to my key question is 8 years ago, at least, I went down and met a board of then, and they talked about Waka Kotahi's great new plan to reallocate road space on its network. Sounds familiar to you, Steve, I'm sure. So in 8 years, but possibly in more recent years, what has Waka Kotahi done to make their network more efficient and carry a lot more than 1.1 people per vehicle in the AM and PM peak? What have they done, and what are they planning to do to make the motorway network in Auckland become substantially more efficient than 1.1 person occupancy?
Thank you, Councillor, for your question. I'll just talk quickly about, first of all, the partnerships. Waka Kotahi realises that partnerships are absolutely critical to have when we're working in Tamaki Makaurau. This is why we're very connected with Auckland Council, Auckland Transport and yourselves. We pride ourselves on our consultation with the community to make sure that we're building community solutions, that we're not just building a transport network, but understanding how people use it, what the form and function is, and how we can deliver the outcomes that the communities are seeking. So alliancing enables us to do that. We've been very successful with our alliances throughout the country, and we'll continue to use that in a collaborative way, getting good results. We really focus on optimisation, and I'll pass it over to Randir, who can talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you. Look, just before I go into optimization, Council, there's also some other pieces of kit that we've been building up and down the city where we are putting in some really good cycling connections. An example being the Southern Corridor Initiative, where like the Northern Corridor, we've actually got a fantastic shared user path that's actually not just connecting different parts of the South Auckland, but also it's connecting into development that's happening. So there's a real opportunity there to actually work collaboratively with developers around how we manage and influence the way people are traveling around by getting connections into those local communities. So we're doing that. The optimization program that Steve talked about is something we're doing jointly with Auckland Transport, and we are identifying parts of our network. Now look, it's a bit challenging, but we're identifying parts of the network where we can actually convert some of our shoulders to bus lanes, for example, and that's work that we're doing in the background as well. So it's work that we are stepping into and moving closer towards as well, because we recognize at Waka Kotahi that mode shift, providing choice to our travellers is really important, and that forms a big part of the work that we do going forward.
Just on that then, Chair, maybe that's for a future attendance of Waka Kotahi to look at that plan, because it is 8 or 9 years ago I've heard a board triumphing this new era of road space reallocation, and we have very little of it from Waka Kotahi, other than a few on-ramps. My last and quick question is Warkworth to Wellsford. We're at a time of really tight budgets now, you know that on your plate as well. Is Waka Kotahi proceeding with a notice of requirement, creating a designation in place already, and acquiring land on that corridor at a time when really those benefits are not as great as the core city benefits from investment in transport in the core of Auckland as opposed to the outskirts? What's the status of that? Are you in the process? Is the designation now in place, and are you spending acquiring land?
So we've been working through that process between Warkworth and just north of Wellsford, Tihana. Under the Public Works Act, we are only acquiring property where there's hardship issues, and there's been a number of those where we've had to use that process to purchase that property. We're only following that protocols at the moment. So there's no construction funding, it's purely just a designation project at the moment.
So the designation is in place and you're beginning some acquisition?
When it's required under the Public Works Act for hardship or other reasons.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Hills.
Kia ora, and thank you, Chair. And yeah, just to add to Councillor Darby's comments on a few of those changes that you guys did, I remember the ramp from the Albany station was supposed to go right across the car park, and we said, well, that would prevent any future development or housing or anything over there. You changed that, and it was a definite no-no that we could go under. It was all going to be a massive flyover, more concrete, more emissions, more unsightly kind of overpowering views for the Unsworth Heights. And so to change, those changes were awesome. I think also you undercooked some of the benefits. That the busway now, that you don't have to get on and off, I think I've been on it a couple of times, and I swear it's 10, 15 minutes maybe, sometimes when you had to go through several traffic lights. It will bring phenomenal change to that area now that people realise how quick it is. And I think it's helping our bus driver issue too, because the turnover is faster. My question on this fantastic project is, were you able to get AT on board with getting some of the connections into that? So bus and cycling connections, the shared paths are amazing, but they kind of just end in suburbs. And I kind of felt hopeful or fed back 6 years ago that I was hoping AT would feed in. Do you have those kind of discussions? Because it seems like you're doing all this great infrastructure that then joins to nothing.
Through your chair, thank you, Councillor Hills. Look, you raise a really good point. I think that's probably an opportunity for us, maybe a missed one in the early days as well, because we do have conversations with AT. I think we can do better in the space of how we plan for these connections. Going forward, what we are doing is we are developing our 3 and 10-year programs together, and we're identifying these opportunities to, if you like, fill the gap. So I think that's actually an opportunity for us to really get better at that. So for example, Southern Corridor, and also on this particular project as well, there's opportunities for us to try and get better connections. It's sequencing and timing of the investment that's not worked well previously, that we are doing better now in terms of joint planning going forward. So definitely an area for us to continue working in. And I'd just like to also add to your point, and I fully agree about the busway. I use it every day, And it's been a phenomenal improvement in travel times to be able to get from Constellation to Albany completely separated. Yep.
And the last question, thank you, Chair, just where has the Northern Pathway gone? You know, is there any time in the near future that this is going to connect down to Takapuna, Northcote, those sorts of areas? There is a plan, but I think we've been talking about it for over a decade. Is that on the agenda, your agenda?
Look, it's part of the plan. Ultimately, this piece of cycleway will connect on to Akaranga Station as well. So the connection from Constellation to Akaranga is part of our long-term planning. Unfortunately, it is not in our current decade plan as part of ATAP. And again, that's also, we're waiting to see what the outcomes of the Waitemata Harbour Connections project look like as well, because ultimately that's your long-term connections then into the city centre as well. So it's part of the mix, but it's just how we stage it over time as well.
But it was in the plan, so now it's not in the plan? Like it was in the 10-year plan, and now?
Yeah, look, it's not part of the 10-year plan at the moment because of the cycling connection over the harbour that's been paused. What we are doing right now is looking at actually could we start some of the early investigation work towards the latter part of this decade to tie in with the Waitemata Harbour Connections project.
Thanks. Councillor Baker.
Thanks, Chair, and g'day, Steve and Randy. Always good to see you. And it's nice to see my northern colleagues so happy. I think that was a happy Chris. I'm not sure, but I just want to pop down to the other end of Auckland and talk about State Highway 22. Between 25 and 30,000 vehicles a day. Last 10 years, close to a dozen fatals and 40 serious injuries, crashes. 2017, there was a plan to. It consulted on plan to have huge safety improvements on that road to try and reduce the death and serious injury. That's gone. We've had the roundabout at Glenbrook built, which has been Glenbrook intersection built, which was 20 years in the making. That was when the land was first purchased 20 years ago. And we've had the speed limit drop, but the deaths and serious injuries hasn't. Where are we sitting with Highway 22 in terms of the safety improvements? And how can we get, I guess, Mr. Chair, how can we get because it's lovely to have this is what we've completed and this is the good news story. There's some bad news stories out there too, and how do we interrogate that? And so how do we get that in front of this committee?
Thank you, Councillor. And yes, it is a critical part of the network where sadly too many people are dying from crashes. So State Highway 22, we completed the roundabout, as you say, which has been fantastic for that critical intersection. The project was put on hold for a while. The government had a real focus on speed management, of which we were reviewing a number of corridors around Tamaki Makaurau. You'll know that recently the government has changed their policy slightly on that. So that means that the speed will remain at that posted speed limit. So therefore, we have just got some implementation funding to complete the design on that parts of this corridor down there, especially between Glenbrook, Pairata and Pokakoe. So the team is picking all that work up again to make sure that it's designed to the latest inputs and environment that we have there.
Hey, thanks, Councillor Baker. And finally, Councillor Henderson, and you'll be aware that certainly to and from the west has made a quantum improvement through this project.
Sure has. Sure has. Thanks, Chair. Yeah, a bit sideways on this. I mean, this looks absolutely fantastic. What I'm just querying is, are we planning on getting an update at some point around the Northwestern busway, and particularly turning it from an interim one into an actual permanent one that might be fit for purpose? Thank you.
Through you again, Mr. Chair. Absolutely, Councillor. Look, we've just started some work to do the planning for the long-term rapid transit connections to the northwest. Recognise how important that is. So, as you rightly pointed, the northwest bus improvements we're delivering together at Auckland Transport. That's currently underway, close to completion. In parallel, we are thinking about the longer-term rapid transit solution for the northwest as part of your city solution for rapid transit as well. So, yes, the work's underway. In the planning stages.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, and thank you, Steve and Randy, for that great presentation. Councillor Walker, I'll ask you to move that we receive this update. Councillor Hills, would you like to second it? And I'll just very quickly just speak to it very quickly, because one of the reasons that that Waka Kotahi are coming to us on a regular basis now is that there are a number of great projects around Auckland, some of which have just finished like this, others which are just starting. And in the general atmosphere of doom and gloom to a certain extent with all the challenges in the transport space, there are some really significant achievements and advancements that are taking place, and this is certainly one of them. And it benefits the people north of the bridge, but it does benefit the wider region, of course, when people are travelling north. And I think it's really important to spell them out, because quite often the project opens up and there's not really a recognition of what's been achieved. So this has been going on since 2018, a little bit like Waterview. There's a raft of really top quality community projects delivered free, essentially. An international hockey centre that does the whole of the region. I mean, that's an amazing facility. BMX track, it's not really a track, it's more like something you'd see out of the Olympics. It's, it's state of art. Equestrian centre out at Green Hythe, similarly advanced, and a whole lot of local reserves renovated along the way. That came as a consequence of the project. We have the transport benefits, and Councillor Hills referred to the Northern Busway. You hit Albany now, you can be into the middle of the city in 15 minutes. 15 minutes, which is just a remarkable commute straight down that busway. Out west, I said to Councillor Henderson, now anyone going out west, it's a continuous, you don't get caught in any traffic, and completes that ring route, a huge advancement. We've got additional lanes. The other aspect that just opened up, the last one, is this beautiful shared path cycleway along the motorway. That's 10 kilometres, so not quite the northwestern, but a real advancement. And once those connections are brought in, that'll be a huge aid to people going to Constellation and also going to Albany Park and Ride, two of the biggest park and rides in Auckland. I just would finish by saying, in terms of the project management, we often hear a lot of complaints about projects, how they go over time. This was a live motorway network. For 5 years, there were no disruptions. So there was the odd detour at night. So they were working on a live motorway corridor on one of the busiest motorway sections in Auckland, and there was virtually no disruption whatsoever. So at the end of all of that, I really want to give my sincere thanks to Waka Kotahi for this wonderful project that our community should be very grateful for, and we're willing to celebrate, and for the wider Auckland region. So thank you, Steve. Thank you, Randir. And I think I can move the motion by Councillor Walker and Hills now to receive the update. All those in favour? Aye. Against? No. Carried.